And on this episode of Low Earth Orbit, we're going to review Snowpiercer. So Snowpiercer is a movie that just came out. It's in theaters now. It's also available on iTunes for rental. And it's directed by Korean director Bong Joon-ho. It's his first English language film. It was also written by Bong Joon-ho and Kelly Masterson. And it stars Chris Evans, Kang Ho-sung, Tilda Swinton, Ed Harris, and John Hurt. And the sort of the basic plot synopsis, it's hard to give a basic plot synopsis, is that, in the future, well, it's not really the future, it's actually like the present, because the film is based on a graphic novel that was written in the 80s. And so at the time, I think it was the future. But the idea basically is that in the future, global warming becomes a problem that nobody can ignore any longer. And so the governments of the world sort of band together and they release this chemical into the upper atmosphere. And the purpose being to reverse global warming. And it works fantastically well, too well, in fact, and that's the problem. And so the Earth freezes solid. And luckily, in this world, there was one person who foresaw that this would happen. He knew that the chemicals were going to have this disastrous effect. And so conveniently, he was also a genius inventor. And so he built a train that can go around the entire planet, and it circles the planet once every year. And then this train is kind of like this arc that it preserves humanity, and it's kind of a perpetual motion machine. It can just go on forever. And the structure of the train is such that the cars at the back of the train kind of house the lowest, the poorest of the poor, the low class citizens, and then the front of the train has the richest ones. So there's this class system that's sort of in order for the length of the train. And the film starts out with one of the characters from the tail section of the train deciding that they've had enough of this, and they're going to go forward and they're going to go into the first class section, and they're going to right this social inequality. And then it's about what happens when he starts moving forward through So, Justin, what do you think?
So I remember when you described this to me in person, when you'd seen the trailer, it was maybe a couple months ago, and based on your description, it sounded really goofy. I was like, what is this? And first, I was like, number one, this is really goofy. Number two, why is Steve interested in this at all? Like, this doesn't sound like your sort of thing. And so I watched it, and it was a little goofy, but I actually really liked it. Like, it was, I don't know. I mean, goofy is just, I guess, sort of the word I'm going for. And I don't think entirely on purpose. I think there were probably parts of it that were meant to be a little bit like that. But I think a lot of it was just the preposterousness of a lot of it, and just the whole setup. But I don't know, it was really entertaining. Laura and I watched it at home through iTunes, and about 3/4 of the way through the movie, she turns to me and says, "This is the dumbest movie I've seen in a long time." And I was like, well, I don't know. I was like, I'm actually really entertained by this. Like, it is kind of dumb, but I don't know. I thought it was fun to watch. I didn't really know where the plot was going the whole time, and I don't know. I thought it was neat. So yeah, I think overall I liked it. Just as long as you know what you're getting yourself into, which is not necessarily super fine cinema. But yeah, no, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
What do you think, Scott?
I thought the same thing about the premise. In fact, I feel like maybe we're all three talking about the trailer at some point, because we were trying to figure out what movies do we want to see, and we looked at the premise for this one and we're like, oh, it's a train that goes around the world and somehow stays warm while the rest of the world is frozen, and we're like, yeah, whatever. So it's interesting. So I kind of have three kind of main thoughts about this. One is, yes, the setup is kind of insane, and as you go through the movie, there's more evidence of kind of completely preposterous things that happen in terms of physics and all kinds of things, and just the practicality of how how all this would work. You kind of have to know that going in and be okay with that. Second thing is, it is a fantastically well-made movie, I think, as far as the filmmaking and the act. So Chris Evans and how do you say her name?
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah,
they were phenomenal. I was really they could have just done the entire movie just the two of them, and I would have enjoyed it. Everybody else is there's some actual John Hurt also was in it, who I left in contact, and none of the acting is bad, I would say, but the two of them, I had no idea Chris Evans could be that good, and she was phenomenal as well. So that actually made the whole thing that counteracted the sort of campiness of some of the other elements, and there were some pretty great action moments. So I did ultimately, I think it's a really well-made movie and I enjoyed it. My only hesitation with recommending it is that it is pretty incredibly dark and like kind of, there's some of these movies I see where it's like you have a choice between, the director has a choice between sort of mostly implied violence or mostly explicit violence. And I tend to not really enjoy the mostly explicit violence if it's not giving you new information. It's just there to be violent. And this is one of those cases, I think, particularly in the scene where they're going through the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's okay a little bit if you're sort of accenting it to get like, hey, this is real. And then they move on. But it's kind of repeated for a while. And it didn't ruin the movie for me, but it came close. So you have to know that it has an R rating for a reason. It's because it is really violent. But at the end of the movie, we're going to do spoilers, right? At the end?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we'll talk
I
spoilers.
have a list.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, ultimately, maybe a few quibbles here and there as far as like, the extreme believability of some cases. But like, I thought it was, particularly it seems like it was a fairly low budget movie. I think it was a really well made movie with some really fantastic acting. So I liked it a lot. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, so I was the one who, as you mentioned, originally brought this up, and I brought it up partially because I watched the trailer and I thought, wow, this looks like a really terrible movie. But then it came out in Korea, or in South Korea, I think last year, and so there were a bunch of reviews already out for it, and they were all just super, super positive reviews. I thought, how could the reviews be this good for this trailer? It looks so bad, So probably just this curiosity, and also just the dearth of good science fiction movies coming out at all. And so I watched it, and it was a really bad movie. I really did not like
Plot
it.
twist!
Wow. It was exactly what I imagined from the trailer. So there's some good things about it.
Sure.
So Tilda Swinton, I love Tilda Swinton in every movie she's in, and she was just over the top amazing here. I loved the teeth, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was even in there.
I don't know why either. It never came back up. I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
But yeah, I love that she was there. The acting in general was really good. Is there anything else I liked about it besides that?
What did you think of Chris Evans acting? Did you think that was good?
I thought it was okay.
Really?
I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't like really blown away by it.
Well,
but
I guess in fairness, my expectation was he had done Captain America, which I hadn't seen, but I'd seen the clips of, and I was like, oh, it's one of those kind of action.
Yeah.
It seemed it's higher than like generic action,
Yeah, I didn't expect him to be able to act, and he did a decent job acting.
Yeah.
So that was good. Acting was great. I also liked as they explore different cars, just those different worlds they create. They're all so unique and visually just stunning.
Yeah.
I really liked that a lot. Whenever they did that, I wish there had been a little more time spent exploring that.
Yeah.
Because I opened up a lot of for example, there's one car that's full of it's like the butcher's car. But where are the cattle and the chickens?
Yeah, there's a lot of those kind of like fridge logic questions where you're like, wait, where does some of this stuff happen, right? Where it's like they go through, a bunch of the upper class cars. You see like the, nightclub car and like the hair salon car, like the whatever car. I'm like, where's the bedroom car? Like, where does anyone live? Like, where's the apartment car? Like I don't understand where all these people go when they go to sleep.
Well, I guess we're maybe getting into spoiler territory, but there was one car that they said was beds and was empty.
Oh.
Remember that was like one of the first cars.
Yeah, we should discuss that because I was confused by that.
That's like way far back. It's one of the first ones they get to.
So
I assumed it was like a barracks for like the people.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe the people that they found a few cars up waiting for them.
They never really addressed that, so I want to talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. So I like some of those things, but I really did not like the extreme changes in tone. It felt very like Terry Gilliam, it reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you have seen 12 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Where whenever Tilda Swinton's character came up, who I liked her acting, and but it had that same feel as whenever the scientists would come up in 12 Monkeys, and it was just total shifting character from really dark and realistic to just surreal and campy and weird and kind of funny. And the same thing happened again and again with other characters too. They're like, there was the for example, the school car they went to.
For the record, this might be a minority opinion, I loved that scene. I thought that was awesome. That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah.
It was just like nails on chalkboard for me. I was like, is this really happening? Is there a musical number going on in the middle of this like was bloody action film?
In the theater I was in, everybody was totally laughing. They thought that was really funny. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Steve was obviously not in that theater.
No, I didn't like that, and also it was. So I didn't like that. I also didn't like that it was more of an action film than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was like, well, there's lots of times spent with action, and then every other little time they kind of like stopped for air in between. It was devoted to exposition because there was so much ridiculousness to explain. So they just
By the way, this is exactly how video games work. You finished the level. Throw in some story.
Yeah. Cutscene.
Yeah. Boss character.
Yeah, that explains it. And then I just felt, I mean, while I couldn't completely see where the plot was going all the time, as you mentioned, I did feel like whenever the plot did move, especially towards the end, it was just like, oh, TV trope, checking them off the list.
Oh yeah.
Like the ending was just like, oh, let's just pick 5 TV tropes, off from the shelf and blend. There we go. We have the ending now to our movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did not like it very much.
All right.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys did. I feel really bad for subjecting all of us to this film.
No.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you said you would recommend it, right?
Yeah, I would, but I don't think I would pick it to win any awards. But I think it was entertaining. I think it was. I don't regret watching it.
So particularly for since it's available for rental, so it's like you don't have to pay the full movie price to see it.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, yeah, I think it was. I don't know, it was fun and it was campy. But if it's kind of your thing, because some people are kind of into the campiness sort of thing, slam dunk.
The other thing I would say is I think for me, one of the major upsides to the movie was the thing you talked about, which was the kind of the visual contrast between the different cars. Because when I saw the trailers, I was worried it was going to be one note visually through the whole thing. It's just going to be dark dystopian. By the way, I also want to talk about, I'm assuming you guys got all the same trailers before the movie, like dystopian movie after dystopian movie after dystopian movie coming out soon.
But watching it at home, I didn't get any trailers.
Right. Well, in the theater, yeah. Anyway, I just feel like
really?
There's so many of them and they all feel the same. So I was glad, I was concerned when I saw the trailer and just based on past experience with other movies like this, that it was just going to be dark green, brown through the whole movie, and it's not, surprisingly. And I think that's, if you're into that, like I am, I think that sort of is a tick in the pro column, because there is a lot of kind of visual inventiveness.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true, and I also love that whenever they at a certain point, there are windows that you can see out of the train, and cool, I like that a lot. And I'm curious, since you saw it in the theater, how did the visual effects hold up on the big screen?
So that was the other thing I was going to say. I'm tempted to say, if you think you're going to see the movie, I think it's better to see it in the theater because I felt more immersed than I expected to feel. And particularly in the scene, like the tunnel scene with the fire and all that stuff.
But that was cool.
It was more visceral reaction. There were a few moments where it felt kind of, like I said, it's probably a low budget movie. When he's figuring out how the food works, there's sort of a CG scene.
Yeah.
There, but there was maybe 3 of them, and they were kind of easy to forgive because the practical stuff was so well done. So yeah, I mean there were some frayed edges there, but not enough to say. I for sure think theater is a better option.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's one of the rare ones where we can, listeners have
compare.
They can watch it either way.
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you have anything else non-spoilery we want to cover?
I think there's a healthy amount of spoiler things I want to talk about.
Totally.
Yeah, same here. All right. Well, so I guess overall we recommend it if you like
bad movies.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, while watching this, I did enjoy watching the movie, but through a lot of it was like, man, I can't wait to see the riff tracks for this. This is gonna be a gold mine, like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna do it. So just waiting.
I don't think I've seen. So is that a podcast or what is it? I haven't.
It's not a podcast. I mean, basically, you go to their website and you pick one of the movies, and they sell you like this MP3. And
you listen to it while you're watching the movie.
Yeah. So like the way that I've done it with friends is that we'll hook it up to somebody's speaker system. So the TV is playing the movie, but then the speaker system is playing their commentary. And they do this little thing at the beginning where it's like, okay, we're gonna count down 3, 2, 1, and you hit pause, and then when you see the Warner Brothers logo fade completely to black, then press play, and it should be all synced up. And then every now and then they have a voice that will read a line of dialogue, and it's supposed to be perfectly synced with the dialogue in the movie, so you can tell if you need to pause for a second or whatever. It actually works. It sounds really fiddly, but you just have to get it lined up the one time, and it works really well. And they're hilarious. It's awesome.
we should review one of these sometime.
Review the commentary.
We should just watch one at least. Yeah. Have you seen any?
I've seen Mystery Science Theater like 2000
forever
ago.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. None of that. I haven't.
It's the same guys.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
But these often with modern movies as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because one I recall watching was like something about like Santa and Martians or something weird like that.
I think the trick with that is that when they're doing the show, they basically had to broadcast the movie at the same time they're broadcasting the commentary, which really limited their selection of movies because they basically had to be like crappy like PSA stuff from the 50s or whatever. But since now they're just distributing their commentaries in MP3, you have to provide the copy of the movie, and now they can do whatever movie they want, which is an interesting sort of like loophole, I guess. So I've seen the one for 300. I've seen the one for Transformers, the first Transformers movie. I think I've seen the one for Star Wars Episode 4. I don't know. They're all a riot. They're all really good.
Okay.
Highly recommended.
Yeah. Should review the riff tracks of Snowpiercer.
All right, well, we're about to head off to spoilers. So if you have not yet seen the film, and it seems like a film you want to see, you should go out and watch it, and we'll be here when you get back. If you have any feedback on the show, you can send that to feedback@lowerearthorbit.fm. You can also find us on Twitter at lowerearthshow. All the show notes also are copiously collected and put on our website at lowerearthorbit.fm. And we have a YouTube page, which I'm told now has 21 subscribers.
So we can all drink.
Yes. But we'd love to get to 30. So 30 would be please subscribe. And
we'll come up with some sort of fancy thing that we're going to do. So I have unsuccessfully tried to convince Justin to do something. So we'll come up with something pretty cool to do for 30. I don't know.
Cool. All right. On to spoilers. All right, now let's on to the spoilers. So where do we start?
So I have a question, and I guess this is sort of a rhetorical question, but if all life is wiped off the planet, how do you start with a complex organism like a polar bear at the end? Was the implication that the polar bears were chilling under the ground or something, or that like we re-evolved immediately back to polar bears,
or that not everything was gone, but just enough to be a problem? Or
I think there was this recurring theme about like things that we thought were extinct aren't really extinct. There were bullets and all this other stuff. And so like maybe fish are still alive in the oceans. And polar bears were just eating
probably
fish.
Like, I mean that's what happens in most extinction level events. Is that actually like there's tons of things that survive. There's a lot of things that don't.
Yeah. I mean I was just thinking about like. I liked Wall-E's treatment of this better, which was something very like a more simple organism. Yeah, I feel like that's
I expected that, like because the snow was melting, right? Like that, like a little bit of snow, like a little bit of earth would have been revealed, and some little
which would have been, I think, maybe
a little bit of moss or something was.
It was like a CG polar bear. It's like, all right. I mean, that wasn't horrible, but I just felt like it's your one chance to do something, kind of.
There's a million things that are just wrong with like the practicality of any of this at all. Like, why train? Like of all the things, like I guess the guy just liked trains. Is that what we're supposed to believe? Is that like the guy? The little
guy liked trains, but
just like trains. I want to live on a train forever. It was
I mean, if this is the only way you're going to survive the apocalypse, right? Yeah. Like why drive a train that spends quite a lot of its time, careening along like these extremely like steep cliffs.
Yeah.
That go to like seemingly miles go down. In avalanche conditions,
right?
I mean,
it has to plow through stuff. It's like, wouldn't it have been easier just to like, I don't know, stay indoors? Like, what is it about the train that makes it so impervious to cold that you couldn't have gotten just by like being inside a building? Like,
I'd imagine when I watched the trailer, maybe the dark side of the planet is so cold.
That's what I thought it was.
But then they showed the map, and like, well, this is clearly not the case. If they take a year to get all the way around the planet, like if they went around the planet like once every day, then they could basically stay like when maybe the warmest spot of the planet. Like, that makes some sense. But no, that's not what they're doing.
They have a whole car. It's an aquarium car like
which was visually great, by
which
the way.
was cool. But you're like, how does that?
First, next to the sushi car.
First of all, wow, that's a lot of water. Secondly, like, wouldn't that just flip over every time they took a turn? I mean,
well,
like,
you see the way every time they turned, that they were like feet off the tracks. This is not how trains work. Like, if they did that every single time they like went around a corner, like they would have been derailed in the first 10 minutes.
I have a more basic question. Does it seem like there, in any version of reality, there's even nearly enough space to house as many people? I guess that's what you were saying with the, like, where the beds and whatever. Like, it seems like you need a train like twice as big, or like a double-decker train, or like something. Because there's like, like you say, with the aquariums, it's like, all right, cool.
It's a whole car, basically.
I know, no people can be in there.
Yeah, but I feel like it's like, and even every single car that they go through, there's so much free space. Like even the aquarium, like that hallway through the aquarium, well, it's really wide. They could, like, you know, like really, if you were,
have these people ever been on an Amtrak train? You get about this much space.
Exactly, and it's more like almost more analogous to like a submarine, where you have to crap all this stuff in for survival in this tiny space. There's no space wasted on a submarine.
Yeah,
and here there's these giant hallways.
You like play basketball in some of these places.
Yeah,
what are you guys doing?
And like, also, what did the people in the back of the train do? Just chill?
Guess just sit around. What does anybody on that train do? I mean,
it's like a what do people in a prison do, right? It's
but I feel like there must be jobs to do. Like, I don't know, like, you know, there's this, you know, like clearly they're raising animals. Like, why aren't they like, you know, tending to the sheep or
tending to the sheep? I miss
like,
cleaning the grass in the car. I guess
there's lots of stuff to do. If you're gonna have a whole aquarium car, someone's gonna like clean out the filters.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
Or, like there's got to be somebody who like I don't know, like you know carves up all the meat in like the meat car.
I mean, the first class passengers are not doing that.
Yeah, they're clearly not doing any of that stuff. Yeah,
there is. I mean, they had the guy that was apparently from the back of the train that was kind of in the middle of the train who was like making the food.
Yeah.
It was one
all
guy.
by himself.
All by himself. Yeah, and he gives a little loopy, you know. By the way, the one thing I do want to say in the plus column, are you still talking about the implausibility? Because I feel like we could go for a while.
We could go forever.
All day. Literally all day.
So in the plus column, but it is a spoiler, I thought two moments I thought were really cool filmmaking wise. One was when he like noticed that because of the one thing she said that the guns didn't have bullets.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really cool moment.
Yeah.
And the other one was I thought the whole match scene was actually pretty cool. How like just the way it played out, where he was like, they're basically toast, you know, because they're in the tunnel, total blackness, and they're like, we're screwed. And then they have this like montage kind of moment where they're saying the match, right? Of course. Now, granted, maybe that wasn't a great revelation. Maybe somebody could have thought about that ahead of time, but still, the artistry of the scene I thought was really cool. It was like this relay, you know, from the back.
They're running the torch, basically.
Yeah, it was a nice little artistic kind of license moment, but
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the other. My favorite moments in the movie were when somebody had like a realization. The thing you've talked about in the past, where like Agatha Christie lays it out for you, and you need to notice and then sort of play it out, you know, figure it out for yourself. The gun thing was one of those, and there were it was a little bit more of a stretch, but some of the things that I can't pronounce his name, but the security expert guy, the things where he noticed like. The snowflake was not like death snowflake, you know, it was like about to melt snowflake. And there was something else he said.
You noticed the airplane, and every time
you could have known that
once a year when you drive past the airplane, he can see more of the airplane each time, which tells him the snow's melting. I thought he was going to say that he thought there were people living in the airplane, which I think would have been much more interesting.
I thought that too. Yeah, like they were like building the airplane or something like that. Yeah. But those kind of moments I thought that was interesting. It kind of, I mean, nothing was as good as that first moment with the gun, because that's like an interesting insight. You're like in his head. Yeah. But sorry, what were you gonna say? Derail it. Literally.
I totally lost it now. Actually, so go back to the that earlier scene, you know, with all the X-Men stuff. Like, did it not strike you as strange that throughout the whole movement through the train, like it never like went on red alert or like they never really summoned anyone from the front to come back? Yeah. You know, it was like they just like. You know, they could just keep wandering through the train. They could just like stop and have sushi for a while. And...
Yeah, it was strange. It seemed like there's a couple spots where there's like, we're not gonna really take our time. Well, there's
and they stop and they go to bed. And
that's what I was gonna say. After the battle of the Axemen, they all go to sleep. It's like, are you not worried that anyone's gonna show up? This is one of those things where it's like one and done. You have to do the whole thing kind of in one sitting, or you're toast, right? Like,
it was.
I don't know.
That was weird. It was a little weird. Although, they did well.
They kind of halfway explain this at the end, though, right? Which is
it's the common villain. I looked up the TV tropes on tvtropes.com for the ending
to figure out what the trope name for this is.
That one was it's the unwitting pawn trope. This is all part of my plan.
But did you see that coming though?
There was actually there's an interesting foreshadowing moment in the sushi scene where Tilda Swinton's character basically says that you can only get sushi twice a year. and it was because of the delicate balance of the like closed ecology of the aquarium.
Yeah, there were some other hints too, because there was like, oh, precisely 74% of you will die now,
Yeah.
and not later on, can't begin, as that's the number that they need to get rid of to rebalance. So they did foreshadow that at least.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy with his clicker who was going through like every time one of the Axemen would get somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there's two other tropes.
Okay, that's right.
In the ending, there's the "we can rule together" trope. Because you can be on my side and we can train together. But my favorite one, which I did not know this name of this trope beforehand, but it is I love it. It is the "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to dine" trope.
Expect you to dine?
In which the villain the villain invites the hero to have dinner with him. After they finally meet.
Nice.
Also, yeah. I have another question. What did you guys think about the clairvoyant daughter?
I was really disappointed by that.
It was underutilized. I don't know. It could have been cool. I thought it was a neat detail when it was first introduced, and it didn't actually get used to effect, I think. I mean,
I don't know. I was so disappointed. I feel like it was maybe like, it was trying to be science fiction, right? It was global warming and all this. They did have explanations for all this stuff, and yes, it was way over the line in terms of believability. But at least they tried to like have some basis in science. And there's like, oh, clairvoyance.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I don't know. I think that added an interesting twist to the story, though, because like there was more tension if you had some sort of idea that like she was nervous about what was going to happen, and that set it up differently. Like I feel like the axe scene
where she says, "Don't open it."
Yeah, I felt.
I think it worked there, and like maybe if they had one thing set it up a little bit sooner, so it didn't come up halfway through the film. But again, if they kind of leveraged it through the entire film, it'd be okay. But I feel like it just was this one little blip.
She wasn't clairvoyant about things that would have been really important, like the guy who starts shooting at them through the bend in the train where they're in the swimming pool car. She doesn't know that's going to happen.
Well, although to me it seemed like it was something she didn't know was a special thing, and it was something that she had to somebody had to say, please do this now. So it wasn't as much ambient as much as it is whatever she's focusing on.
It almost feels like she didn't even know she was clairvoyant until that moment.
Well, I think she didn't
know what the word was.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It feels like something that was probably like more prominently featured in the comic, and they couldn't really find a great way to get it in the movie.
Yeah. We should look into that. I did think, for the record, a lot of times, in my experience, the way these movies cannot do so well is if the bad guy doesn't feel like a bad guy. And Ed Harris's character, I don't know, but like Tilda Swinton. That's how you say her again, right? Yeah, okay. She was convincing as sort of like, I don't know what the word is for her type of character, but it's like she's convinced that she's like in the right, even though she's kind of creepy. And the other dude, the hitman or whatever he was that was chasing them, that was seriously well done. I mean, that was the guy who you believe is going to take these people out, as opposed to, whoops, we forgot that somebody was in the train and like, please don't shoot me. Like when somebody does that well and they sell that idea like, I am going to get you, and it like adds to the creepiness level.
He kind of felt unstoppable, like in the scenes he was in. Yeah,
especially when he's like shooting through the car, like around the bend.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay, yeah.
By the way, I love the girl with the measuring tape. And how she like measured everything. Yeah. Like even like there's the bomb on the door. She takes a moment to first measure the bomb and then remove the bomb.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
So with the trope stuff though, I'm curious, is it that like were you bothered by that because you saw where it was going, or are you just
I just felt like the end there was no way to end the film, so they just grabbed some
out of train.
Yeah, they're like, well, I guess we'll just cobble together some tropes and end it that way, Like,
but did you find the movie as a whole predictable or not? Because I didn't, and you said
I didn't either.
No, I as a whole, the ending felt cliched, but as a whole, it didn't feel that predictable. Because it was just all so crazy that I didn't predict they were going to go find a school car with a
that was insane
musical number
and the eggs.
And the eggs and
man, the eggs was something. So that's another thing where it was like, was everybody just like not thinking this 100% through? Like this guy comes through this huge cart of eggs. Yeah. Everyone's like, I thought we didn't have eggs anymore. Like, I've got this huge cart full of stuff you can't see. I'm just going to walk right past you back to where you came from. It's like no one wanted to like frisk him or anything. Like, hold on, we're not going to let you keep going. Like none of the protagonists like thought it was weird that this guy was going to come through the back, like this huge like thing of eggs.
Yeah,
which turns out to be where they keep the guns. These ones that actually have bullets. Yes. And yeah, it just seemed really odd. Where it was like, why did you let him go? Like, why?
I kind of chalked that up to the campiness, I guess.
Or maybe they felt so out of their element they didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, there was a lot of There were moments where it kind of actually felt a little bit like Fifth Element to me, where it was like, normal. There's something really crazy happen, or something really crazy happens. Just sort of give up on normalcy for a minute, and then we'll go back down to normal.
Yeah. Maybe
I don't know. That's how it landed with me. I don't know if I was supposed to think of it that way, but you know what I'm saying? Like Fifth Element kind of does that too, where it's like it's an action movie, but
Yeah.
like all of a sudden there's like this DJ who just doesn't make sense in any respect whatsoever, and you're like,
Ruby Rod.
yes.
Oh, the best.
Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it.
Oh,
But it's
I
been a
don't think
long
you-
time.
Oh,
would
I think
hate
you'd
it.
love it.
What?
No,
you would
I
hate
think
that
you would think
movie.
it was great.
Are you serious?
No.
Can we bet on this? I don't know what the stakes would be.
Yeah. What would we wager?
So you could do the thing that we did, which is that you choose a movie that you want me to see,
Oh.
I choose a movie that I want you to see, and whoever gets Steve's guess right, also we have to convince him to see it.
That's true. Okay.
We'll work something
I'll take
out.
that bet. We'll figure something out.
We'll let you know next time
Yeah.
what happens, but I'm pretty sure he would hate it.
Okay.
But
I think you'd enjoy it.
okay.
We'll find
I
out.
feel that's my movie watching list.
To Rotten Tomatoes. Interesting. I'm also really curious. We should talk about it that whenever we revisit this. I'm curious
Okay.
what you think specifically he would like. Or actually, well, here's a key question. How do you feel about campiness in general?
It can work sometimes.
How do you feel about French movies?
This was a French, well, Alex, it's a French graphic novel.
French movies?
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies is French.
Which one?
Amélie.
See, I think that's in the positive column.
It
That's
is-
a pro.
It is
if
positive
you-
column. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Wait, that it's French or that it's
It's got a
Amélie?
French sensibility to it. It's directed by
Yeah.
a French guy.
There's some thematic similarities too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I've heard it described as a French movie that happens to be in English. Is The Fifth Element?
Yes. It does have actually. So one major plus column, regardless of what you think of the entire movie, is that Gary Oldman is in it.
True.
And as in every movie he's in, he is a completely different person than any other movie he's ever
Yeah.
been in. So
It's shocking. The guy's
it
chameleon.
really is. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Challenge accepted. Maybe.
Tune in next week for our thrilling review of Fifth Element.
That's not a bad idea, actually. We
We did have. So we had talked about wait, don't judge me.
Wait, don't
What?
judge
Do
me.
you remember having that conversation?
Ooh, how much alcohol was involved in this conversation?
Are we going to air this part of the show? We talked about we had talked about
Oh, like a guilty
Yeah,
pleasure movie,
yeah.
and you have to justify why you thought it was good.
yeah. It's interesting.
Well, now that I've heard the idea again, I still think it's great.
We'll see how that goes. All right.
Do we have anything else about the Snowpiercer?
Oh, I have one last
Okay.
question for you guys. So, again, back to the axe scene. At the very beginning of the axe scene, there's the fish.
Yeah, what was up with that?
What was up? Did you guys get that? I didn't get that.
They're pointing out that they're axes that are sharp. I mean, I felt like there was some.
That was my first impression. We're like, let me demonstrate how sharp this axe is. I
Yeah.
thought he was gonna just barely touch it, and the head would.
Yeah, I
cut
thought
off
all the stuff
instantly.
was gonna fall out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But then it seemed like it was more ritualistic, where it was they're gonna get the axes bloody before they really get them bloody. I don't know.
Maybe it makes more sense if you had maybe it's there's some bit of Korean culture, buried in there, or maybe it's French
that's
or
interesting.
something. I don't
I
know.
have no clue. I have no
Some other
idea.
Europe something.
We've got a lot of things going on here.
Well, I guess, to me, the most prominent, before he used the axe, I was like, oh, there's fish. I didn't realize that they had.
Because we hadn't seen the aquarium.
Yeah,
Club.
and I was like, oh, does that mean
Where'd you get that?
They're gonna? Well, I thought at first, since they were basically lined up and they weren't attacking each other, I was like, are they gonna offer them food in return for backing off or something?
Yeah, they looked pretty sinister, but a couple it took so long before the fight started. I was like, are they gonna team up? What's happening?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it had something to maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the live fish
Yeah.
had some significance there,
Yeah.
but maybe not. I don't know.
The whole there's a sequence where the camera follows what's his face, the main character guy, Chris Evans.
Yeah, Curtis.
Curtis. Through that fight where he's got the axe, and that kind of vaguely
Dark Tower.
reminded me of Old Boy, not the Dark Tower. That doesn't count as a reference. No,
It's like
Old Boy.
invoking the rule. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the movie. It's another Korean movie, not by the same people, but it's got this well-known scene in it where the protagonist has a fight in a hallway, which is kind of trainish.
What was it called?
Old Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like we've talked about this before on the show.
I don't know if we did it on the show or if just
was
afterwards or
after,
something,
yeah.
but yeah. But there's a I don't know if famous is the right word, but there's a well-known scene in that movie where the main character fights off 30 bad guys in a hallway with a hammer, and so something about that scene in Snowpiercer kind of reminded me of that particular scene in Old Boy. I don't know, something about the close quarters of it all and the melee weapons and stuff. It seemed
Totally like unbalanced odds with like
yes,
50 people with axes and like 10 people with sticks.
yeah,
Somehow the six people win.
yeah, basically, yeah. I don't know. It was cool. What do you guys think about the kids sort of reveal at the end, like why they took the kids?
That did not make it. Okay, so I have a major. So maybe the least like the biggest plot hole, maybe in the whole movie for me personally, was like, okay, so they lift up the board and they see I forget which one of the kids is down there. And it's like, oh, he's down there doing stuff. Yeah. And for some reason, I mean, there's so many options here. One is we could say, hey, whatever your name is, do you want to come out?
Right.
Is one option. Another option is, okay, there's machinery or whatever that's preventing him from coming up somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. There's like 5 pieces of furniture, a table. There's like, the room is filled with random stuff. And there's drawers. You put anything down there and it's going to stop it. For some reason, he's like, well, I've got an arm.
Well, that's not some reason. There's this whole backstory about why
he does have sort of a guilt about his arm.
I know, but there are 1,000 things in that room that would have been more appropriate for that scenario.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I think like in reality, I think people do make bad decisions like that based on like weird backstory stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
At long last, I can be a hero by sacrificing one of my limbs.
Like he's basically looking for an excuse to get rid of his arm.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If that's the reason, fair enough. But I thought what they were trying to sell it as, oh, he has no choice. He's got to do it now, and this is hard for him. But I'm like, well, there's like guns and like entire chairs.
All
you can put
kinds
down.
of things.
Plus the kid is like, he like doesn't acknowledge. I mean, it's just the weirdest scene because he's just like, hello, hi, I'm trying to free you, and like. Plus, what is the other kid doing in the engine?
I don't know.
He's like, oh, I'm in the drawer. Let me crawl out of the drawer I was in. He wasn't like even locked away. He was just like, oh, something's wrong with the engine. So I guess I'm going to come out of my closet or whatever and just do this thing that somehow I knew to do. And
I got the idea that they were like hypnotized in some way.
But what was he even doing? Like the train. So he like stopped. Literally, the sequence of events is he puts his arm in the engine block or whatever it is.
Which stops whatever
it is. Timmy is still moving around black stuff for some reason. The kid literally, no joke, comes out of a cupboard or something. It's not even like a jail cell or anything. He's literally just in a cupboard. He rolls out. He's like, I guess this is my job. And he goes in. For some reason, the train comes apart. He goes to sit in this chair in the engine. And then it goes back. And then we never hear from Timmy again.
I don't know.
I don't even know what he was supposed to be doing. It was like making the train more, I don't know. Hot.
I think they could have cut all the kid stuff out of the film. It would have been stronger.
But do you guys actually know what was going on there?
No, I think just the idea was that I think it was supposed to. I think there were probably 2 reasons. I think one is that it was supposed to highlight sort of like the incredible levels of like inhumane treatment. Like they were literally wearing these kids out as parts in a machine. Like literally.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I think it was sort of the thing that broke. Main character guy Curtis broke him out of sort of his spell where he was sort of like
considering
you could almost maybe think that he was thinking about taking the guy up on his offer to sort of be the new leader of the train, and then the clairvoyant girl runs in and reveals to him the kid in the machine, and that's sort of like the like slap that sort of gets him out of it. So
absolutely, and all that would be fine. Like, but you could accomplish all that without the second kid. The second kid is really strange. The second kid is cut something that would have explained more, and like it was a deleted scene or something. But it's just like, I mean, none of that even made like the minimum amount of sense for like a theatrical release of a movie. Like it just, I don't know. Unless there's some symbolism I completely missed there. Okay,
I don't know.
We got nothing. Anyway, so I did hear that I'm curious to go back and check out the graphic novel now. But I think the impression I got is that the first graphic novel was very, very highly reviewed and very highly thought of, but the second one was not as well thought of. I don't know what happened with the third one, but it's so long ago, that it only just like in like
it only just year, recently had an English translation.
Had only been in French for forever. Yeah.
I wonder how does that work? I mean, like, what's the sequence of events that leads up to that, where it's like at basically the same time, somebody happens to pick up a copy of the French version and is like, we should make a movie out of this and translate it to English. Like, it just, how does it go undiscovered for so long?
Wait, I mean, how does it like not get translated to English for so long, or how does it get made into a movie?
Both, but mostly the translating into English. Like, if it's good enough to be made into a movie, you feel like
English because they're making a movie out of it. Like, there was this guy, he was like, he read this novel and fell in love with it and made him make a movie about it. They were like, oh, book tie-in, cha-ching, cha-ching.
But it seems odd that the book tie-in didn't happen earlier, because I don't know, it just seems like that sort of stuff. It seems way easier to translate the book than it is to make a whole movie.
It could be maybe they timed it deliberately to coincide with the film.
30 years. The 30 years, nobody in the English-speaking world thought it was worth their time to find this book.
It is an interesting question. Yeah, although, so for whatever it's worth, I went to the comic store that's near us, and totally sold out, back ordered even. Like they
Well,
don't
because of the movie, probably.
yeah. But it's interesting that like I mean they presumably translated it with the intention of selling quite a number of them, and they were still back ordered. So Titan Comics, I'd never heard of them. So apparently there's some indie something or other. This might be their first big thing. I don't know.
Wow, what a debut.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. All right. So we'll look forward to a review of Fifth Element. We'll have to come up with a good one. I don't know what it's going to be. We got to come up with something kind of fun that we can wager on.
Okay. Yeah, we'll think of something good.
Okay.
All right, stay tuned.
Steve has not actually technically said if he wants to see the movie yet.
That's right. We haven't even gotten to the bit. It's like we're betting on a horse who hasn't decided if he's going to race yet.
Could we review the Fifth Element? That'd be kind of crazy.
We could.
Retro review?
I mean, I don't
We
know.
talked about doing that before.
I have a suspicion that most of our listeners have probably already seen it, but maybe not. I mean, you haven't seen it, so I bet there's probably people out there who
I
haven't
think
seen
there's a lot of, because of when it came out, I think it's possible
It's
that.
pretty old, right?
Yeah, it was like 95. I
it. Really? Is it that old?
think
What's
so.
nearly-
We'll check it out. Okay. Anyway,
Nearly 20 years old.
I think it's right. Yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
Okay.
I don't think it's that old. Jurassic Park's that old. You think it came out around the same as Jurassic Park?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe a few years later, but
Okay.
we'll check it out. All right. Stay tuned. Or don't actually right now.
Yeah.
Checking that out.
No, go home now.
Go home now. You're probably already home. Go make a sandwich. So yeah.
Bye.
What'd you say? There's always an ice cream truck around here. Although it's awesome because in the middle of summer, it'll play Christmas tunes. Every time. I think it's Christmas tunes. Okay, we're good. Nothing says ice cream like I'm
So we know that Bong Joon-ho, is that sound right?
Yeah.
We know that he's a well-known Korean director.
I don't, but I know that he's
Okay.
directed another movie that I've seen.
Oh, that's right. He was the host or
The host.
something? Yeah.
So you want to do a...
He's also written the screenplay 7 Reasons Why Beer is Better Than a Lover, 1996.
Wow. This is the director?
Yes.
I wonder if that's a literal translation.
That's true.
It loses some of the subtlety of the translation.
I can't really tell from the Wikipedia entry whether he's actually a famous director or merely just a Korean director. So I won't say famous. I'll just
Noted. You could say noted Korean director.
noted by who? Us.
Low Earth orbit. Noted Korean director.
Noted.
We have just noted.
Moss.
Notable. He has been noted. Consider yourself noted.
I guess if you're notable, it just means that you could be noted. You don't even have to even have ever been
Noted
noted.
is it's
Right.
the minimum bar.
I'm very notable.
Somebody
No
who's-
one has noted me yet, but I'm notable. My mom tells me. Expect you to dine.
Which the villain
Dinner.